realities of when you're having a sexually active life for a man or a woman. Some things are going to happen that you need to know about and need to be able to talk about, and that we don't talk about them. So we get caught up in this reactive, like, I don't know what to do, I'm going to go with the moral norm that nobody does, right? Of shaping very important things in my life. Okay. And a couple of these things specifically that I want to talk about are monogamy, family, marriage, pregnancy, all these things that if you're sexually active, they're going to come up. So the first thing first is that when it comes to our biology, when it comes to us as human beings, right, as animals, that when we're intimate with somebody, we're going to feel some things. And you have to be inhuman. You have to be able to fight against a force of nature not to feel them. And so when people are talking about, like, I don't want a relationship, I don't want these things, that means you haven't had good sex. You haven't connected with somebody, or you have so much massive resentment built up that you're able to repress those things. And from what I know, from what everybody I know that's sexually active is, that's really impossible. When you're sexually active and you're intimate with somebody, you're going to fall in love. You're going to want to give your complete life to that woman. You're going to want to impregnate her. You're going to want to experience everything that you want in your life with her. And she's going to feel similar things towards you. Now, what you have to realize, and the thing that we don't talk about much, is that's going to go away. That's not going to last. And of course, I'm not trying to say there's an argument pro or against monogamy or different forms of relationship. What I am going to say is these are all man-made concepts trying to deal with the feelings that we feel, and they're not the reality of what happens. Of course, people get married and live happily ever after. That can happen. Of course, people make different forms of, swinging lifestyle or polyamory or whatever work. One is not better than the other, but what we have to realize is that our nature has some very specific things in it. Okay. When we're having sex, when we're having good sex, when we're connecting with somebody at the highest level, we build bonds that are very, very intense and amazing. In order to be able to know where you're at with those, you really need experience. So in order for me to really make a clear decision, and I still can get lost in it, of saying, I want to be with this person, I want to have a baby with this person, I want to get swept away with this person, I need experience with sex and with relationships in order to be able to make a proper judgment about it. And even better than that, because it's some powerful stuff, right? You have great sex with somebody and you're like, oh my God, this is it. This is the best person in the world. You will feel that. In a way, you're kind of blind to it. So I want to have a group of friends that isn't, a bunch of pickup fanboys, isn't a bunch of unexperienced guys that are playing with the concepts of masculinity or femininity or relationships or anything like that, but guys who've actually been there. And so something that came up in our group the other night was that some of the stuff had happened. It's like, look, we're pregnant. We are in love. There's some problems. I don't know if I'm ready for this. There's all this sort of stuff. And a lot of the group members were like, look, man, number one, there's no wrong decision here. There's only the decision that you own, and learn to live with that. And that is so unbelievably important. Whether it is being in front of somebody when you did something bad, bringing a new life into the world, committing to a relationship, being able to speak your truth is amazing. And although there can be heavy consequences, think about it. It's like, why do we lie? And we lie all the time as human beings. We break the rules. We do things that we're not supposed to. We text while we drive, or, we lie about what we've done throughout the day to somebody that we care about. We lie when somebody asks us how we are. But we go through life so much not speaking our truth in the most important things in our lives, like relationships, purpose, how we treat our bodies, how we treat our minds. When are we really honest with ourselves? When do we listen to it? When does that happen? And if you're committed to good relationships with people, try and be in your truth and in your presence, which can be very difficult and impossible. And I want to run from it every fucking single day. But when we do that more, and we really are authentic, not just this some cool word we talk about, but when we really can stand with our own 2 feet in front of somebody and live that, we reap the rewards of it. Why? The People that need to leave us in our life, they leave. The people that need to come into our life, they stay. And we build an ecosystem and a culture where that can exist when we can truly speak our truth. Okay, so there are no wrong decisions. There are the decisions that you own. Okay, and so look, if you're in love and you want to make that commitment to be in love, you are making that commitment. Know what that's like. 5 years down the road, 6 months down the road, whatever it is, when that commitment starts to fade, you need to learn to be honest with that and communicate with it, and also be responsible for the decisions that you made within that. One thing that is super important that also came up was like, don't ever fool yourself that you can make a lifelong decision in a moment. A lifelong decision takes a lifetime to make. And so when you're committing yourself to somebody and you're completely giving yourself to somebody, man, don't get lost. And this is where men and women, we do it all the time. It's like we're having good sex, we're having good times, we're intimate, we're connecting with each other, we want to bond. All those things are happening. And we say, this is it forever. Rather than saying, I am in the feeling that I want you forever. Let's entertain that. Let's live within that. Like, why don't we talk about that? Because that's what fucking happens. Like, how many times have you been in love with a woman and you wanted everything with her, but then, something happened? Or you think about your biggest breakup that you had, and maybe you stimulated that breakup. Maybe she broke up with you. It's like, man, that bitch, she left me, or whatever it is. Or if you left her, it's like, she's crazy. But there was a time where you felt in love. And you need to be honest with that. It's not that you were delusional. It's not that you were out of it. It's that you were a human being and that you really wanted that and she wanted that. And if we got okay and realized, and we're so blind as human beings that we haven't pinpointed at this is crazy, that we just realized we're at that moment where we want to get lost with each other. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's have that moment. Let's plug into a community that talks about having that moment. Hey, don't make decisions about babies and marriage right now. You can talk about it, but don't make a decision now. Let's talk about that more, because we have this moment and people get caught up in it. And it is a force of nature to have those things, and you will get lost in it, but let's bring some awareness to it, please, because it fucking happens. The other thing that I would say is, when we are in that moment, man, like, what are some things that we could do to make it better, make it good, if we know that it's a phenomenon of us? How can we explore ourselves sexually? How can we explore ourselves with our fear? How can we explore ourselves with different areas of our lives? And it's one of those things that when we are given food emotionally, when we're given food sexually in our relationships, it gives us food in everywhere else. What is my real purpose? What are those things? What is my expression when I am in the mode of love and feeling and sharing my life with somebody? Man, this is an awesome thing. I just really think people should get honest about that. The next thing that I'd want to talk about is, like, look, if you're a man and you're married, you're single, whatever, and you get somebody pregnant, one of the best things that you can do for the relationship of your unborn child, what you're having with the woman, whether you stay with her or you decide to do things separately, is get legal help. And one of the reasons for this is because nobody is intending to do a bad thing. Nobody's intending to do anything fucked up. But when people don't have, and I have like way too much experience in this, and when people don't have what they want set up and they're just winging it, when we're bringing in a relationship, we're bringing in possibly marriage, we're bringing in a child into the world, there's so many different variables in that emotions can get high and things can flip. And in that situation, if things flip on you and you're a man, stuff can get dangerous, man. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of inequalities and imbalances in the world. It's not against men versus women, but in the United States and in most Western countries, when it comes to this now, 30 years ago, this wasn't the same. 40 years ago, this wasn't the same. But now, if you're a man and you have a child with somebody, you don't have a lot of rights on your side. There's a lot of things that lean and just sway towards the woman. And in a way, 40 years ago, things were fucked up that they backlashed so much where it kind of fucked things up for men. That's one thing. I'm not saying men are oppressed. I'm not saying women are oppressed. I'm saying in this specific environment, man, you can really fuck yourself. And so the best thing that you can do for everybody, and this is one of the things that I thought, if you were to ask me when I was 27, and I first found out that the girl that I had hooked up with was pregnant. If I were to go to a lawyer, that would mean like I was deceiving her, doing something wrong. No, man, save up $500, $1,000, whatever. You can go talk to a lawyer for free for the initial consultation. Talk to an attorney and see if there's a way where you guys can come to an agreement before that baby is born on what you guys are going to do are the best things to follow. And this isn't some like, oh, this is kind of an agreement of maybe. This is like, no, this is what we're going to do. If things go good or bad for the best interest of the child, this is what we are looking for and this is what we want. And have it be so that you can keep the state out, hopefully. I get it. There's a ton of fucking deadbeat dads. There's a ton of like really, really bad dudes who don't want anything to do with it, and all that sort of stuff. And that's one of the reasons where these laws are made. I'm making this video not for those guys. I'm making this video for the guys who, like just don't know. I mean, that's what happened with me. And the first thing that happened to me, as soon as like shit hit the fan, because we did what everybody tries to do. It's like, we're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. Which is fine. You're going to have that feeling. That's why you talk to a lawyer, in case that feeling goes away like it did with me. When I showed up at the Attorney General's office, I had a pissed off chick who was really mad at me for a lot of reasons that could be very, very valid. And I was totally unprepared. I didn't have all of the documents necessary, and I really was unprepared. But even if you have one thing that isn't fitting within the mix, and it depends on who your mediator is or whoever you're talking to in this situation, or if you're talking to another lawyer, man, you know what I got slapped with? I got slapped with the highest capped amount. I'm somebody who was making like, $60,000 a year. I got slapped with a guy who makes $10 million a year, the capped amount of child support when I walked out of that office. I could not change that for 3 years. It was impossible for me to change it. The only way that I could change it is if I could prove that a lie happened. And actually, you know what? I don't know, because I'm not a fucking lawyer, but I couldn't change that. You know what that did to me? That put me in $13,000 in debt from an angry woman who wanted to fucking, who was speaking with emotion. And what happens? I'm not even saying there's anything bad about her. That's something that happens when you get in these situations and you're unprepared. And dude, you very, very, very majorly fuck yourself. In order to undo that, dude, I had to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to attorneys to reverse that. Okay. And eventually, she actually chilled out after 3 years and like tons of black eyes to reverse that herself. And she had to take heavy measures in that. Come up with an agreement. If you're bringing a child into this world, the best thing that you can do for yourself, herself, it's not a selfish thing, for the child, is to come up with an agreement so you don't beat the shit out of each other with the tools of the system that can work in a very imbalanced way. The Attorney General, the different lawyers involved, all these whatever, they don't care about you. They really don't care about her. They say they do. They don't care about the kid. They care about, having the cause of their job or whatever around. What does matter is you and that other person are able to work together and dialogue with each other so you don't beat each other up bad enough. Okay. So look at these things, man. When you start falling in love, when you start getting into it, when you're having sex, when you're a sexually active man, you're going to feel the urge of monogamy. You're going to feel that you want to connect with this person. You're going to want to feel that you're connected with them for the rest of your life. Get involved with the group. That's what TSL is. Go to thesexuallife.com/members. You can sign up for a monthly fee. You can get plugged into a group of guys that knows what happens when this happens. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that's great. It's something that unlocks so much of your life. But be around a group that goes like, okay, this is a phase. This is the love phase. Let's use this to its highest advantage, and let's, watch out for the different things that people fall into. Look, making a lifelong decision or commitment takes a lifetime to make. When you fall into a problem, don't try and fix it with another problem. One bad decision doesn't need a second bad decision because it compounds it. Hence, like, oh my God, I hooked up with this chick. She got pregnant. Let's have a relationship. Those are two that does not work out well. In fact, the people that make that work out, I don't know anybody, but I'm sure it has happened. But I know a lot of people who had that not work out, and there were severe problems that came into play with it. The third thing that I would say is like when you are dealing with pregnancy, when you're dealing with anything legal, like if you get an allegation made against you, get a lawyer. Spend the $500, spend the $1,000, spend the $1,500 on somebody who can set things up for you so you don't dig your hole deeper. Why? Because in these situations, you know, the laws aren't really made too well for men. It's not a victimization thing. That's just how they are now. It used to not be that way where men got away with everything, but the laws are not in your favor. You need to have something so it doesn't get you involved in anything worse. That is not something that you need to be afraid of. That's not something that you need to be terrified of. That's not something you need to get political about. That's something that you personally need to do so that you can be free and make the right decisions and be yourself in those situations. Anyway, that is my advice for men. If you want to build into this discussion, sexuallife.com, overall men's development, sign up on our member page. That's one of the best things you can do, where you can have access to a group of guys that do this, as well as tons of content on how to better yourself in literally every way imaginable for, man, a monthly fee. It's pretty fucking cool. All right, later.